Hi everyone, in this video I want to talk a little bit about the proof of work in a little bit of details, because as I saw in many videos, when they talk about it they just say like it's a complex puzzle, something like that. But actually it's not a complex, it's really simple, because what it does actually, if you open this video, mostly you already know why we use it. Okay, we use it to mine a block or transaction in the blockchain network. But how it actually works? So the way it works is, in the first we have many blocks. Okay, let's see, block block x plus 1. Okay, and block x plus 2, for example, and we're gonna go this way till the last block. Okay, so now let's say we wanna mine this last block. So first we have the miners in the blockchain, which is the nodes, some nodes in the blockchain. What they gonna do is to mine this block. First of all, they need to take the data, not just the data, all the content of the last block. Okay, the unmined block, all the data, whether the data or the timestamp or the transactions, and the hash also of the previous block. Okay, so the hash of the previous block. So, and the time stamps. Okay, so they take all the content of this one, and so let's see the content, and they should add a number, a random number called the nonce. So it's all about this number now. So what they do is, after they take all the content and they convert it to a text, a string, a blank text. So the content now is a text. Okay, so they add this string test, they add it to this nonce, and they pass it to a hash function. Okay, the hash function. Now this hash function gives us a hash. Okay, it's gonna give us a hash, which is a 64 character. Now the idea of the proof of work is that this hash number that we want to find at the end should contain some zeros in the beginning. Okay, and so this is basically 64 character, and we have some zeros, and this number of zeros changes. Why it changes? Now it changes because, for example, in the blockchain we want the number of the mined blocks to be constant in a period of time. So they want, for example, to have 2016 blocks mined each 2 weeks. Okay, so in order to control this number, we need to control the difficulty of finding this number, because if this number was difficult to find, then the number, I mean, if the number of these zeros increases, then this nonce will be difficult to find. And if it was difficult to find this number, then it will be difficult to have more than this number of blocks. And based on the number of zeros that we want to have in this hash, based on that number and the difficulty of finding it, we are controlling the number of the blocks that we want to have. Now there is two questions. How do we actually find the number of zeros that we want to have in this hash, and how do we also find dissonance? Okay, so dissonance should be found by the miner. Okay, so depending of the number of zeros that we want to have in the hash. So the miner can, for example, add check just in a sequence series, for example, start with 1, then if he didn't find the numbers of zeros that he want in the beginning of the hash, then he will go to 2, then 3, then 4, and so on till he finds it. And it will for sure it's gonna take a lot of time and a lot of energy. Basically this is the proof of work and how it works basically. But how do we actually, the second question, how do we actually determine the difficulty? Okay, how hard this is gonna be, means how do we actually determine how many zeros we want to have? Like, do we want to have just 4 zeros in the beginning of the hash, or we want to have 19? How do we do that? So basically, to do that, there is it's based on a blockchain protocol, which is we go to the blocks, to the previous blocks before this one, and we go back with a 2016 block, and we check the last block time when it was mined. Okay, and then we check the previous block, for example here, when it was mined, its time, and then we calculate the time between here and here, and if the time was 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks, then we keep the same number of zeros that was. But if the time was more than 2 weeks, then we need to increase the difficulty so that it will decrease and become just 2 weeks. Okay, so if the time was more than 2 weeks, if it was more than 2 weeks, we need to decrease the difficulty so it will be easier to have this number of blocks in just 2 weeks. But if we have this number in less than 2 weeks, then we need to increase the difficulty so that the number will get back to the 2016 blocks at 2 weeks. That's it. Of course, this explanation might have some errors, so just take it as a global overview, a global knowledge.